Hello everybody, this is MRK and today I'm gonna answer one simple question which doesn't seem to be so simple, which is why do people have a serious fucking problem with casting and why do people not understand it? And the simple answer is that people suck at explaining it, and I encountered this problem many times when I tried to learn it, when I was just starting with Unreal, and I tried to do all sorts of stuff, communicate with other blueprints, and I couldn't do it just because I tried to cast it and it really I couldn't get my head around it. So now I'm pretty confident with my skills and with my knowledge. So I'm gonna try explaining it as best and as simple as I can. So first of all, you might not know what casting really is, and you try to use it thinking that it's just a way to access some variables. Well, it's not that simple. Casting is a way to check if an object, let's say that cube right there, if that cube is a cube we want. This is what casting is. And if we want to access some variables, we can do that by casting. Or we can do all sorts of other things like make it move or jump or whatever we desire. So this is casting, and what's the big fucking issue? People do not know the difference between a blueprint class and a blueprint actor. So this right here, this little shitty cube that was in the third person example map, is a blueprint. Well, it wasn't, I made it. So let's say we have a cube, let's make a cube really quickly. This is a mesh actor, but let's say we want to do something with it, we want to do some cool stuff, we want to make blueprint out of it. So we click blueprint, add a script, and it automatically converts this to a blueprint. Already did that on that cube, and then it saves in whatever folder we want, and then we can drag it into the viewport, and we have a nice little cube, and we can do how many times we want. And this is a blueprint class. This is not. This is a blueprint class reference. This is an actor, and this has well, this is kind of a child to that. Not really. It's not called like that, but it's how I like to explain it. And this has different, it can have different values than that, because it's just an instance. That's how things can move in different ways. Like, let's say we have two cubes, and we say in that blueprint, like in event graph, that we want it to move in a random direction. Then we spawn two cubes, and they each move in a different way. Not in the same way, right? Because the system creates different random variables for each instance. So this will have a different variables, and this will have also different variables. So that's why we need to check shit. So moving on, let's maybe go to the event graph. This is an event graph. Let's say this is a common situation that we want to, we have a variable in that cube. I already made a variable. It's called, don't mind that, it's called some shit. We can remake it or make a new variable. This is just super simple. We can call it an apple. Let's call it an apple. Whatever, it doesn't matter. And let's make it a vector this time. As simple as that. And then we have a vector. After we compile, we can change the variables. Let's say it's 5, it's 10, 5x, 10y, and 15z. As simple as that. And from the third person character, so our character we control, we can do just whatever player controller is connected to. When that controller, so that third person character, is clicking E, or just any interaction, you know, stuff you can change in project settings. Right here in input, you can do action mappings, and another action mapping, let's say interaction, and put a key like fucking X or E. Let's just go with E, because I already did that. So we have E, and we can, an example, go with that. So we're gonna go on event interaction, right? So whatever, E or interaction, doesn't matter. And we want to access that variable in that cube here. And we want it to print on the screen. So this is, don't mind that. We want to print it on the screen. And the way you would want to do this is to get a cached to cube mesh blueprint, access that variable, access that, this is not that variable, let's do it again, cube mesh, access the vector variable called apple we just made, and we would want to print it on the screen, right? Connect it, and you would see that object wildcard and think like, what could it be? Do I need it? Maybe not. Let's just go without it. Some nodes work without any input. So let's try it. And you compile it, and it doesn't compile, and you think like, what the fuck is going on? And I'm gonna tell you right now, this is casting to a single instance. Even though it says it's cast to a cube mesh blueprint, it's not casting actually to a class. It's not casting to that. It's casting to that. So you need to specify what kind of cube is this, because it can be this cube or it can be this cube. And the easiest way is to don't mind this. Get a line trace. You know, I'm just saying from like most common situations. You want to do either line trace or overlapping. So if you go by line trace, and you of course draw a line from whatever you want. There are multiple different tutorials on the internet how to use line trace, so I'm not gonna go into that. It's super simple. So you shoot a line from the camera, and this, whatever it hits, this is a fucking hell. This is a out hit actor, right? You can of course recombine it. You don't have to do what I did. You can also break it, break hit result, and just do hit actor from here. You can then bang, collapse it, so it's maybe it's even better. And you take that actor and you put it here, and there is your instance. So this is how you cast doing line trace. If you don't want to do line trace, you can of course do it by overlapping. So you get overlapping actors. Of course, you won't have overlapping actors if you don't use a box collide. The way you would do that is just add a box collision. You make it bigger, and whenever you step into that box, this will count as an actor you overlapped. So this will get that actor. you can choose the class. So cube mesh blueprint, right? Because this is that blueprint. And you get all overlapping actors. So this is an array, so we want to have either a whole array, so you would get like a whole bunch of objects you would get variables from, or if you just want one, then get a copy and get a first item that is in that array. So you get all overlapping actors that you're currently overlapping, and you list them as an array, and you get the first object. You take that object, bang, you can cast to it. Boom, it works. See, simple as that. And this, because you might be confused why I had this, I just wanted to show you that this is the most common example to show how to cast, and it tells you nothing. So this is terrible to explain casting, because you can always cast to a player character and it explains literally nothing. So let's just get rid of that. So another thing that I think is very important and I wish I knew is MRK. What if I want to access that variable, but I do not have an actor also? I made that so I can prove you that this works, because you might be wondering. We get a vector of that and a vector of that, which isn't different because it's in default, so it's obviously not gonna be different. If you want it to differ, you need to grab a current location that will be in event graph. This is for later. On event begin play, you wanna set Apple to get location, get actor location and self. And if you do that, then it will show you the current location. Simple as that. See, it's different. That's why you need casting. Okay, so what if we want to access that, but we don't want to use the references? So let's say we don't have any cubes. What then? How do we access those variables? Simple as that. We don't use, obviously, the actor reference. We use blueprint class. So as I said before, this is not a blueprint class. This is a blueprint class. It says right here, blueprint class. I'm trying to show on the fucking monitor, but obviously you can't see my hand. So let's move on. How do you make a blueprint class? How do you cast to it? Well, the answer, short answer, is you don't need to, but you can make a variable, and this will create a reference to your to that class, right? So this will be that, and this is the reference. Let's go over that. How do you do that? You create a variable. You create a variable called cube mesh class, and this class, as you can see, you can choose right here, and it can be none, then you will obviously access nothing, and it can be that. So what do you want to do with that? You access that class and you get class defaults, and from that defaults you have all little variables you have on that blueprint. See, some shit and Apple, and we have both of those things. So access class defaults, and on event interaction you can just print that shit. Let's do another print on interaction, print the defaults of an apple We can also do some shit which is 5, but let's stick to Apple. And let's prove that it works. So we have no cubes. Of course, there is a shadow that, because we didn't build it. And I'm clicking E, and we, voila, access the Apple variables. So okay, that's for that. And the one last thing that I want to cover, and that you will also need to know, is how to access an actor, a reference, that is, let's say here. Let's say you want to do something with it, but you have no way of checking it, and line trace won't get to there. You won't jump to there because it's too high. So what then? You want to get specific values from that cube, but it's well beyond your reach. And the simplest answer, simplest solution to that would be to get all actors of class. This is a very simple node, yet very effective. The way you use it is you just type get all actors of class, right? This is setting the current position, so it will be different than class defaults. You get all actors of class, you choose the class, so it's gonna be a cube mesh blueprint. You get that little array, because it's gonna, get all actors and put it in an array, so it's like a fucking box of objects. And if it's only one object, then you just, get a copy and type 0. Well, you don't have to type it, it's already typed. But you basically take the first place in that array, and you get that object reference. So what do you do with that object reference? Whatever you want, but we want to, of course, get the Apple variable. So we just get Apple, bang, and we want to print it. We want to print it to the screen, just like that. And you might have already encountered that node, and some people would say, don't use that node because it's fucking dangerous and shit, but in my opinion, it's not as dangerous as people think and say. The reason why this could be dangerous is that it's getting all actors from the whole world. So if you, let's say, you have shit ton of trees, and we can do an example. So let's say that we have shit ton of cubes. So cube mesh blueprint, and we wanna paint shit ton of cubes, right? So we have a shit ton of cubes, and if we want to access all of them, it will take a while, right? Because there's shit ton of cubes. But if it's just one object, like we have put here, then it's not a problem, right? It's fucking easy. There is no strain on the computer, no performance loss, no nothing. So don't be afraid to use it, just don't cast it every tick. So don't use it with that. Probably don't ever use that with event tick, because if you don't already know, event tick is casting every frame. So if you're running a game 120 frames per second, then it's gonna get all actors of class 120 times a second. So you don't really want that. You want to get that, you want to fire it in some particular cases, like in that one. So it's no problem. So we pick the blueprint class, we get the only existing instance, and we want to print its location. So let's see if that works. Bang, it works flawlessly. So I think that covers pretty much everything. Well, I see there is one node I wanted to talk about, but it's nothing major. It's just interface. It's just an blueprint interface, sorry. And this is used if you want to actually do some serious stuff with that object. You can just, call that node, and whatever goes in here comes out here. So event interact. But to do that, you would need to have interaction blueprint. The way you do it is in blueprint interface. It's nothing major. If you do that, there is basically just a function, and you leave it like that. Then you add it in both blueprint classes you want to use. You want to connect with each other, and you add it in class settings, just like that. And then you can call those functions. So interact, have add event, call function, interface call. Mostly you want to use interface call, and you just on event interaction you get that all authors of class, and let's say we want to do something with it. Instead of just printing its location, we do that. We take that target, and we can communicate with that. And similarly, we just do event interact. This is basically that node, and we can do whatever from now on. So I think that's pretty much everything. I'll just show you that the event interaction works. Wait, you want to print? Let's print that value. Right, because we are not printing on that, we are just calling the interface. So we take that, we're printing, and that. So on event interact, it should print out the position, and it's working flawlessly, like everything I did in that fucking example. So if you have any questions, you still are in doubt of how to do anything, then leave a comment below. I will answer every single comment that will if you have a problem, just fucking write, because I know how hard it is to understand that. I know how hard it is to understand many of things in UE4. So I'm glad to help. I'm just glad to help, mate. So write down what's your shitey problem, and I'm gonna respond. So that's it from me. Thank you for watching, and see you next time, I guess, if I'm recording any more videos. So bye.